Well, good evening. For us, it's morning. It's Wednesday, and Aubrey and I are recording our first time ever in the studio. I give a lot of credit. Aubrey has, I showed y'all last week kind of our setup. Aubrey has worked hard to get our setup up and running, and all the audio and stuff. We tweaked it yesterday. Aubrey helped me with that. Jason helped me with that. So we got it all squared away. We're hoping it's going to be great, and so we're going to try it out. And so. I gave Aubrey a whole lot of time yesterday at 5 o'clock. I told him, hey, Aubrey, we're going to do this tomorrow. And, but Aubrey's always ready. So,
We studied last night some. It's fun.
so all that just to say, we are looking forward to our discussion today. We're going to talk about, the plan is to talk about fasting. The last time Aubrey and I did the duo was about a little more than a year and a half ago when he interviewed me when I first got here. And we did that in the conference room and got that all set up. And so we're just going to enjoy being together and play off of the discussion, play off the Bible, and enjoy seeing what it says about fasting. So, Aubrey, any thoughts as we begin about the studio or the setup, or your thoughts about what we want to do as we
No,
go
we just
forward?
appreciate them allowing us to set this up so that we can get off by ourselves.
Right.
And no phones, anything, so that it'll be able to concentrate. So,
Yeah.
But it was a whole staff effort as we worked together to put it all together.
That's right. We're going to try each week to have me and somebody, Aubrey some weeks, Jason some weeks, Tanner some weeks. We'll try to get Regina up here as well and take about 30 minutes to talk about something. It might be this week we just said, let's just go ahead with the next spiritual discipline that we've been working on. And we finished prayer, and the next one is fasting, one that we don't probably love talking about. Aubrey, are you?
I know. I when you gave me that, I go, this is the least practiced discipline in my life. So
Yeah.
I love food.
We know you do. You cook it well. I'm the same way. I don't, fasting is not something I've done a lot of. I've tried to do more of it. Small doses. You mentioned just in passing earlier with the staff how y'all did it in seminary.
Yeah, we were going through Foster's disciplines, and so we wanted to practice each one so that we would understand it. Just like throughout my life, I'd only fasted one time before seminary, and it was on trying to make a decision about what major I was going to be in at Mississippi State. And from what I understand by reading and studying a little bit about fasting, it was you go to the Lord and you give up your normal time that you eat or prepare to eat and all, and you give it to God, seeking His wisdom, advice, things like that. So I'd done that my sophomore year, going into my sophomore year of college. Went through the catalog after I sought God and said, you're really going to have to help me because I'll do anything.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have much clear
Right.
vision.
So I had to get some lab work, and they told me not to eat. So that's the same thing, right? The fast.
No. You don't just give up food. You give up food. If you eat 11:30, what it would actually do is at 11:30, instead of going to get something to eat, you go pray, you seek God's face, like that. And biblically, it kind of started out in their culture as mourning.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a way that they would show honor and respect to the dead, is that they would give up food. And of course, every time it's associated with that, sackcloth and ashes.
Yep.
Now, have you ever done sackcloth?
I have not worn sackcloth, nor have I put ashes on anywhere on my body.
Me either. I haven't done that. But it was their public show
Right.
of their grief, a lot of that. And then we see it evolve with Moses receives the law. And that's the only fast that's recorded is on the Day of Atonement.
Yeah. I think even today, we sense that with mourning because if we've had a terrible loss in our family, we just don't want to eat. I mean, it's our minds are not focused on food; it's focused on our sadness. And so that part of the mourning experience, I think that's natural.
Mm-hmm.
But then to say, okay, now let's take that and turn it into something that's actually God focused of not eating for a spiritual reason. And that's where what I was asking you about back in seminary. I think you said y'all did it for a half day, or y'all just did
One meal.
one meal.
We did the one meal, and that was what we committed to do, was miss that meal and spend that time in prayer.
Yeah.
And seeking God's face and just worshiping Him. It wasn't a particular need, except we wanted to practice it to see if we, in fact, that's part of it. You did it before, what are you feeling, and after, what are you feeling? Yeah. And I really did feel closer to God after spending a whole hour in prayer and reading the scriptures, because we don't do extended time with God. We do 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, where we can get in our schedules, things like that. So that 1 hour of really focused confession, adoration, we went through the acts of prayer there with adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. So.
And I think part of what you're saying is fasting needs to be intentional. Not that, oh, I skipped a meal on accident. I was driving, and I didn't pull off and I missed the exit, and I went on. But you're talking about there's a purpose for the fast of there's some actual motive of the fast.
It is. That way, if you have a major life decision or something going into your life, that would be the perfect time where you say, I want to depend on God for my nourishment instead of physical food. And not only are you saying that in your mind, you're actually showing it in your actions in private. Right.
And you just brought something up, because Jesus said something like that in when the disciples were asking about, did he have food? And he said, I have food that you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, my food is to do the will of the Father.
Also in 6:18, Matthew, whenever you fast, don't be gloomy like the hypocrites.
Yeah.
For they make their faces unattractive so that their fasting is obvious to people. Truly, I tell you, they have their own reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head, wash your face, just do your normal thing, so that your fasting isn't obvious to others, but to your Father, who is in secret, and your Father, who sees in secret, will reward you.
So what do you you've studied that, I say that, what do you see that, what's happening there? Why does he say, don't be gloomy like the hypocrites?
Because it can be a show, just like the sackcloth and ashes type thing. And the Pharisees in particular in Jesus' time were known to be great theatrical actors out there trying to look good. And really it was not in humility. Mm-hmm. It was for a public show, and they wanted to pat on the back.
Yeah. Why do you look so sad today? Oh, I'm fasting. It's just miserable. Oh, you're such a good Christian boy. You're such a, that seems to be what they were wanting.
Yeah, and he says you get that's your own reward.
Yeah, that's it.
You're really not seeking me.
Yeah. And so instead to say, put oil on your head, wash your face. Basically, for us, take a bath, look nice. Comb your hair. Brush your teeth.
Every day, people can't tell that you're doing anything.
That's right. Yeah.
But God does.
But inwardly, you're having some special relationship with the Lord during that day or during that time. So again, back to what we look at the scriptures and we see, well, Moses had a 40-day fast, and we see Jesus had a 40-day fast, and we see since these long things. But you said y'all just did it for one meal. So I mean, what's the right amount of time?
It's not. It's whatever you want to do for God. It can be one day. It can be a whole day, 3 meals. It could be longer than that. In fact, fast doesn't mean totally without food or water, unless you so choose it, because your body does need a little nourishment. Right. So you'll see some of those, they go down to a smaller, simple diet.
Daniel.
bread and water.
Well, you got bread and water. You got Daniel that just says we're not going to eat certain things.
Yeah, like no fancy meats and stuff like that. We're gonna go vegetarian. So
there's different types of fasting out there.
and you're in control of it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there is no commandment in there except on that Day of Atonement that
Right.
Moses gave. Now later on, the Jews had 4 scheduled going in the
Right.
calendar after they went away and came back to the Second Temple. Then they had 4 times of fasting that they would do, and these became those festivals and feast and fasting.
Feast and fasting. And we still have that today on those special days. Not that we don't, in the Baptist world, do a lot of liturgical, but we do see others taking part in Lent and a few other
Ash
feast
Wednesdays,
days. Yeah.
you start that, and
Yeah.
then like some of our Catholics, give up meat on Friday. They
Right.
got fish, but
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
And it's that part of season that
Right.
it's not supposed to be an outward show. It's supposed to be, I'm giving up something because I love God and I want to seek Him.
And on those special days that they had, a lot of times, again, it was a fast followed up by a feast. So it was an intention. I'm going to withhold eating this for a time to think about, to contemplate, to think on God. But then I'm going to end that with a celebration of what He's done. And so it's kind of like the Lent fast leading to the resurrection feast.
That's correct.
So that's a historical aspect that we kind of miss sometimes about the fast and the feast days.
Yeah, because most people are not real big on history.
Yeah.
Some people like reading it. Others, we don't go to history lessons in our sermons very
Right.
often.
Right.
We take maybe the historical meaning of the passage at that point, but really the whole flow from Old Testament through New Testament to the present, we don't look at really it's called asceticism.
Mm-hmm.
When you give up something
Right. Yeah.
in order to see God.
And we've seen that go into an abuse. We've seen abuses of that where I'm just wrecking my body because I think that's going to, in some way, shape, or form, make me spiritually right with the Lord. Versus, again, having the purpose of interacting, communing with God, that regular relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier, kind of the Pharisees, even back in Zechariah 7, God questioned the people back in that day, and He says, ask all the people of the land and the priest, when you fasted and lamented in the 5th and in the 7th months for these 70 years, did you really fast for me? When you eat and drink, don't you eat and drink simply for yourselves? I mean, it's this idea that you were doing outward shows, but you did not do it for me. There wasn't an intention. You just said, well, these are the days I'm supposed to do it, and so I'm just going to do it. But there was no interaction with the Lord. And I think that's the danger of us with a fast, even from food, even if it's just for one meal. It's, well, I'll just do it because I'm supposed to do it. And I'm hungry the whole time, and I just can't wait. And the focus is when I get to break the fast, that's what I'm focused on instead of what you said early, the intention of your specific that you said, not for the seminary, but where you said, I need to know what the Lord wants me to do for my major. I want to seek the Lord in a special way to remove food and to focus on Him.
Mm-hmm. In Isaiah, Isaiah writes this as well, speaking for God. God told him to say this, that he said, isn't this the fast I choose?
Mm-hmm.
Is to break the chains of wickedness, to untie the ropes of the yoke, to set the oppressed free, and to tear off every yoke.
Mm-hmm.
They were fasting, but it was not seeking God and justice.
Right.
And they were not being obedient, even though they were fasting.
Yeah.
They had an outward show.
Right.
But it's the heart that's God's looking at, obedience.
Absolutely. So why do you think that we as Baptists, other than the fact we just like potlucks, why don't we spend much time on this spiritual discipline? Because we both said this is one that we've not done a lot of, but any thoughts?
I don't think we really teach it. That's why this is important for us, is to go through the different disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
when you're growing up, you don't hear people talk about fasting. You don't study it. You really don't know. So I think for most Baptists, it's because they've not participated in one.
Yeah.
They don't know how.
Right.
They don't know what's included and what's not included.
Right.
Because you Baptists like rules. They like instructions.
Give me my list of to-dos and what not to do.
Yes.
It makes it
And
easier.
I'll follow it.
I can
Give me
check
a
it off.
checklist.
That's right. I can check it off.
Now they like doing that,
Yeah.
but most of us as Baptists, just like I said, for even you and I, it's not our most practiced thing. But anytime I try to make a major decision, I will give up something to see God. Now you can give up like television time, just say one evening.
Yeah.
Instead of cutting the TV on, doing your normal thing, you say, I'm just going to go in my room and I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to pray. I'm going to see God's face. I'm going to pray for our nation, whatever you want to do. But people go, you can do that? And I said, yeah, the Bible's very clear that there are these solemn calls of assembly, but you don't have to have a whole public one.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, people are all the time praying and seeking God's face and His will for their life. And so you can give up electronics, maybe even for a weekend, and do a prayer retreat.
Hold on, let me check and see if I can do that. Because we are tied to our devices, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
In fact, I left mine home today, and,
Yeah.
and my wife called you, I think.
She called the office and I answered, and Sandra said, my husband does not have his phone. And I thought she meant she couldn't reach him. Maybe it was on silent. And I said, well, I don't know. Maybe he's got it on silent, or she said, no, I've got it in my hand. He doesn't have his phone. So when he said a minute ago, we can come up here and we don't have phones, we're not distracted. I'm like, yeah, Aubrey's definitely not distracted because he doesn't have his phone today.
That's it. But it's what it is your heart.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of this. In fact, Jesus was very clear. And the Pharisees and all says, why don't your disciples fast?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Jesus. Everybody else is doing it. Y'all be careful of that. Everybody else is doing it.
Right.
And Jesus said, hey, there's no need to fast with the bridegroom. He's talking about their fellowship with one another.
Right.
As being one with the Father. He's teaching them to be one with the Father. So you didn't need to fast to seek the Father.
Right.
When the Son's right there.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned you and I both did Richard Foster's book, Celebration of Discipline in Seminary. It's been around a long time. And then the new one that's come out is the Donald Whitney one, which is what Jason did when he went through his seminary work. And so, but in regard to these, one of the things that they talk about is that fasting could become legalistic. How do you think that might?
Well, if you set a calendar for it, if you, incorporated your whole church and say, hey, we're going to fast and we're going to do it these, like the Jews, 4 times a month, 4 times a year,
Yeah.
and everybody does it.
And if you don't do it,
Yeah,
you're not spiritual. You're not spiritual like we are.
Right, you're
Right.
not spiritual. And so that's how it can get legalistic. It really, I think God really wants fast to be about Him.
Mm-hmm.
And that way we are searching for that relationship. And because Jesus said there's going to come a time when they'll fast, when the bridegroom is no longer there. So guess what? We're in that time period right now.
Right.
Jesus is no longer here. So yes, fasting is something we can do to seek Jesus's face. And I love it on major decisions. Esther is one of those that I looked at last night. Esther 4:15 and 16. Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. Go assemble all the Jews who can be found in Susa and fast for me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my female servants will also fast in the same way. Then after that, I will go into the king, even though it's against the law.
Mm-hmm.
And if I perish, I perish. And Mordecai went and did everything Esther had commanded him. So it was a fast, praying for her courage.
Mm-hmm.
As a teenage girl to go in to the king. If he doesn't put your scepter out, they cut your head off. Yeah, and it was she had to have courage. She's looking for the right word, so she's seeking God in this, and said, "Hey, 3 days."
And y'all do a serious prayer for me, so serious that even when it comes to be mealtime, and I think so. You said fasting from electronics, and so what am I supposed to do if I'm saying I'm fasting for electronics? How does that get me closer to God? What spurs me to?
Well, instead of looking at Facebook and scrolling,
Mm-hmm.
you cut the phone off and pick up the Bible,
Yeah.
and let's scroll through it, and write out some prayer requests that you have. Especially like for her, it was a major event in her life. Well, guess what? If you're looking for a job or to change a job, perfect time to fast.
Yeah.
Seek God, say, look, I want to be obedient to you. Help me in this decision. Like me, college major that I was looking for. Sandra and I, when we purchased a car, got down and prayed and asked exactly. We only had so much money,
Right.
and we knew that God wanted to answer our prayers. Y'all, that's what it is. God is a good God.
Yeah.
He loves us and cares for us, so He really wants to answer our prayers.
That's right.
But we want to make sure our prayers fit with His will.
Right. And I think in that, whether it's electronics or it's food, for me, when I even choose, because the one thing I do in regard to fasting still even now is we're not a self-denial society, right? Right? We don't do well with self-denial.
Right, and that's really what fasting is about. It's denying your physical needs,
Right.
to say God's more important.
Yeah. And so when that need strikes, so all of a sudden I've decided if I'm going to not eat for a half. So what I've done before is just kind of start myself on fasting even is really just fast from 2 meals, which ends up being 24 hours if you work it. If you're saying, I want to kind of do a 24-hour fast, so I'm going to eat dinner late one night, and then I'm going to miss my breakfast meal, I'm going to miss my lunch meal, but then I'm going to re-eat again at dinner time that night. And so you can have a one-day fast and just miss 2 meals.
Correct.
But in doing so, what I'm trying to do intentionally is when that moment hits that I say, because here's what I do. I know I'm supposed to be praying and seeking the Lord, but I get distracted.
Easy.
Right? I mean, I get distracted.
We all have
I get those distractions.
ADHD, whatever.
Right. And so we're kind of, squirrel, right? And so, I know that's what I'm supposed to do, but then I get distracted. I get to doing something, but then all of a sudden that hunger comes up because I'm not thinking about anything else, and all of a sudden I'm hungry. I want something to eat. You know what? The reason that's happening is because I'm skipping a meal because I'm supposed to be praying, and that recharges me back to, Lord, I'm seeking you. And so it's not about me being upset about being hungry, which I got to do this fast, and I'm going to be hungry, and I'll get over it. No, it's actually to draw me to remind myself with all the distractions that happen. That hunger has risen in me. I need to be hungry for the Lord's instruction in this matter. Let me put my energy back on that. And that's kind of the cycle that I'll have throughout the day. And then I'll be focused on God for a while, and then I get distracted, and I'm back into work, or I'm back into doing something, and then the hunger will come again, and it's just that reminder. And I think even with the electronics, it can be that way. Because the thing we reach for so often, I think you said yesterday or the day before, you said something along the lines of, when you see people waiting, what do you see them doing?
Glued to their screen.
Yeah. The moment we have
Scrolling.
the moment we have a minute of free time, for the most part, instead of, in the olden days when we didn't have that, we would interact with somebody that we're sitting near. I remember sitting at, the car dealership while they're doing a tune-up or doing something for the car oil change, and you're just sitting with people, and everybody's got a magazine that's old, and portions of it are ripped out, and you end up just getting in a conversation. But now you don't get in a conversation because people, if they have the free time, they're interacting with
And you
their
don't
social
feel
media.
like you should interrupt them
Right.
as much when they look busy.
That's right. And
And
so I
you know
think
it's a time waster.
That's right. It certainly can be. But I think when you're saying that, that distraction, when I get distracted and my natural inclination is to reach for my phone to start, is to go, oh no, that's the reminder for me to pray to set it back down. But
It's a great way.
kind of that desire that's in me to look at my phone, or the desire to watch TV, or whatever it is that we've said. So it's probably not if I don't like liver, and I don't like liver, probably for me to say, because I've heard people at Lent kind of do, I gave up liver for Lent. You're like, well, you don't like Lent. You don't like liver. So there's nothing you've really given up.
Didn't give up meat.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to eat it anyway.
Yeah. So it's not going to point me towards a relationship with Christ. But if I gave up sweets, because I know my body's craving that sugar, and if I think, oh no, I can't have that, I'm supposed to think about God. I mean, whatever it is that we give up, like you said, it doesn't have to be food.
Right.
Some people might, even for health reasons, or their doctor wouldn't want them to give up food because of
like a diabetic,
blood sugar and things like that.
And then what it is, you just eat the minimum and spend more time in your prayer time. Like you've got to have some peanut butter crackers or something like that, and or a simple meal to keep that blood sugar up, because God doesn't want you to do anything that's not healthy.
That's right.
But He does want your attention, because He gives us so much attention.
Right.
That He really wants His child just to love Him back, just to love me back.
Right.
And that's one of the ways that we can show that we love somebody, is when we do something for them out of our own heart's desire.
Right.
And so that's the part of fasting, I think, that we as Baptists in particular could easily start incorporating a little bit more into our life. But like you said, it has to be intentional, because if not, we will never do it.
Right. That's right. And you mentioned this a minute ago in passage. I want to come back to it, but you said, now, how many commands are there about how often we have to fast?
There's none.
Wait a second, but we know so many people in the Bible did it. So are there any implications that we should fast?
Yes, Jesus gave the example there, just like you said. When He went to be tempted, He fasted for 40 days to get ready for that temptation that was coming. And all that time, His food was God. And just like the woman at the well that you were talking about, and the disciples came there and says, we got some food for you. He said, I've had food you don't know about. Yeah. And that's what it is. God is our sustainer. And when we give Him our attention, our love, our focus, willingly, and with our own heart's desire, that's where we also receive the blessing, because He even tells us in there, won't I reward you if you do this in private? Don't make a show of it. Don't tell people you're fasting. This is between me and you.
Right. That's right. But he seems to indicate that it's going to happen when you fast. Go and do this. Now, he could be saying if you ever decide to fast, but it does seem to be he's expecting there to be some fasting at some point.
I think so too. There are different points in our lives we really do need to spend more time with God, and I think that those are perfect times to just say, God, I need to fast. I need to take out something in my life. What do I need to take out? Should it be food, electronics, television, sports? What can I give up so that you and I can get closer?
Right. That's right.
Then you have to be intentional about it. And you set your timeline. The Bible's very clear. It's not commanded. It doesn't tell you. Yes, there's some 40-day fast. There's a 21-day fast. There's, as we just saw in Esther, 3-day fast. Yeah. And then there's parts of fast that you can do. God says you get to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's beautiful. Is that again, the spiritual disciplines, we can turn any of them into legalistic, pharisaical, I'm better than you because I do this more than you, and that's not what the disciplines are for. They're for freedom, and God says you have freedom to choose when and how to fast. It would be good for you. It seems that Jesus indicates, He says that, why aren't your disciples fasting? Well, they're not fasting right now because the bridegroom is with them. But when He departs, there will be times of fasting.
At seminary, we did it before what we were feeling like. We had a little 10-question pre-test. And then when we got through, we had a post-test about, did it make any difference?
Mm-hmm.
And every one of us in class said, yeah, we felt closer to God
Yeah.
when we got through.
Right.
And it was worth the effort.
Yeah.
Because, yes, God blessed us with his presence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, again, we have to determine what it works for us, whether we make a regular arrangement of it, whether we do it on occasional. But, part of it is the relationship with God, but there's other relationships we have too. And so again, people want to invite us to go out to eat. We should be able to say, yes, we can do that. But there are times where we need to say, I've got something so important. I need to cut out things so that I can focus on my relationship with the Lord and hear from him in a way that's undistracted. So I think that's good. Well,
Just like the solemn assemblies when they call the whole nation.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt for a whole Sunday school class to say, we're going to pray for our nation this Saturday at 12 o'clock.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we'll give up food and you do it at your house, wherever you are.
Yeah.
And let's just pray for the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are great things, that you can incorporate. It can be even church-wide.
Yeah.
I know we've mainly done it with just prayer.
Right.
You might say prayer
time.
times
Yeah.
and things like that. But I think that's kind of the next level that we may experience more of who God is if we decide to give up something,
Right.
as well as pray.
That's good. Well, that's 30 minutes, and it went by in a hurry.
It did.
So
It's fun.
it's fun, and so we're trying it out. We're going to figure it out. We'll get better at it. And one of the things that Aubry likes to tell us, Aubry, what do you say about what happens with you every day?
I have a party every day, and sometimes you get to join me.
So the thing is, we want you to be able to enjoy the party. The staff, we have a great time together. We have a great time every week in our staff meetings. And so we just feel like this will allow us to let you kind of look in on the party sometimes and get to feel some of that. So, and as we're comfortable with one another as a staff, but as we get more comfortable with the setup, that'll be even more free flowing and figure that out. But we're glad you tuned in with us today. I'm gonna let Aubry close us in prayer, and then we'll see you hopefully on Sunday.
We encourage you to try it. Just find you a time, and it can be food, it can be electronics, it can be TV, and try it. Just if you want to start out, try 30 minutes, try an hour, and just spend that time with God. And then you can come tell us if you felt closer to God after that or not, which I think God's promise is real, so you will.
That's a great point. Yes, his promise is real. And so if we will engage in fasting and not be worried about the legalism. Well, did I do it right? I was going to give up this, but I didn't know if I could have juice. It's like you choose what you think will bring you close to the Lord by giving up something that will keep you tuned back into the Lord when you hit that distraction. When you know that's typically this is what I'm doing at this time, but today I'm not doing that at this time. I'm spending the time with the Lord. So,
and he honors anything you give him.
Yeah.
I mean, the tithes and offerings, he's made clear he doesn't need those.
Right.
It's about his heart,
Yeah.
and about the mission to the world. So
He wants to spend time with us,
he wants us.
and that's the key component of fasting. Not legalism, not obligation, but a deeper relationship with our Lord. So,
That's the thing we seek.
yeah, excellent. Well, we're going to let Aubry close us in prayer, and we will see you next time.
Father, we thank you for this opportunity just to talk about one of the disciplines that throughout the Bible is used, sometimes effectively, other times, where it's for their own glory. And you point out those. The Bible is very clear that you just want our heart, you want all of us, that's what you care about. And that not only do you want us to spend time with you, but you want us to be obedient and live out your character in our life. Father, I just pray that whoever's listening tonight would like to try that. They would set aside a time for themselves, and especially if there's something going on in their life, that they would spend that time with you, and you would reward them with your presence. In thy gracious name. Amen.
Amen. All right. We hope to see you Sunday and then again on Wednesday.
That's right.